And here we go.
What is going on, boys and girls? My name is Mike from the Super Wheeler Bros. I know it's been a couple weeks, but never fear, we are back. And today we have a great video lined up for you. We are going to be reviewing the instant classic, the masterpiece, Underworld Blood Wars. Of course, I'm kidding. Obviously, that's not an instant classic. However, basically what's going to happen today is we are going to do a spoiler-free portion, give it a grade, and for those of you who want to stick around afterwards who have already seen the movie, we're going to get into a couple of plot points and things that I think maybe could have been changed to make the movie better, or just get into it a little bit more in depth. It's going to be real short and real quick after that, not going to be a ton of time after that to get into spoilers. However, let's get into it. Underworld Blood Wars. Man, how do I really sum this movie up? Well, it is first and foremost, a blending of obviously the action and horror genre. It is the 5th movie in the series. Man, I can't believe there's 5 movies in this series. And this series has gone on for a long time. I was actually pretty much, I believe, still in high school when this series started. And Kate Beckinsale is the driving force behind these movies. And even though she's now in her 40s, she looks every bit as convincing and as good in her costume as she did when she first started this series as Celine, the death dealer who is the lichen killing extraordinaire. Lichens are werewolves, by the way, just in case you're not familiar with the series. And essentially in this movie, it's her show. And she is the reason why it works. Now, the action scenes are still pretty cool. That's pretty much all you can really want out of Underworld and this movie series. There's some good, stylized action, and Kate Beckinsale is great at it. She even gets a few scenes where she gets to execute a little bit of emotion, and judging by her recent track record, you can see that she's actually adept at doing so. And while Kate Beckinsale, and to a lesser degree Theo James, who plays David, he does a great job as well, following those two as our two kind of main protagonists, it does make it easier to swallow some of the inconsistencies in CGI, especially with the lichens. This budget was $35 million, but it seems like they weren't as practical effects as they have been in previous incarnations of the Underworld series. They could have used a little bit more practical effects and kept the budget down at the same time. But instead, I'm assuming that probably we had a rushed production and they thought that this stuff, well, because it's all at night for the most part, they can get away with a lot of it. Definitely some inconsistencies, especially when it comes to Tobias Menzies as our villain, Marius. The villain's name was Marius, and as far as the villains go, he just doesn't really hold up to the rest of them in the series. We're made to believe that he is the most threatening villain they've come across yet, and in the series we've had so many great villains. He just doesn't hold a candle to Bill Nighy's Victor, or even to Tony Curran's Marcus. It just doesn't make sense. We paint him as this really threatening villain. He's the lichen to end all lichens. He's the baddest dude that has ever come across the vampires, and he's going to eradicate them. And they are more organized than they've ever been. And it's just a little bit inconsistent. And that's where I kind of find the big problem is the political aspects of this movie coming out, infighting of the vampires, trying to get control of the coven, and the fact that we got kind of a weak villain, and Tobias Menzies is not the greatest. There's a couple of things that I'll discuss in the spoiler portion of this review that are inconsistent and that were just kind of included and kind of thrown out there, kind of throwing stuff against the wall just to see what would stick. And yeah, it is an Underworld movie, and if you turn your brain off and you just enjoy the visuals, you're probably going to have a good time. And especially if you're fans of the series, you're probably going to enjoy yourself. However, if you're coming into it fresh, even though there is a great recap at the beginning where you, once again, you get to see everything that's happened up until this point, and Kate Beckinsale's voiceover is very effective in drawing you in and making you remember what has happened in the past, you're going to lose sight of what's going on really quickly just in the political infighting alone. There's definitely some eye-rolling moments in this movie, and I mean, just the effectiveness of some of the acting is just, oh gosh, it's just bad. It's bad. At one point, there is literally what they think looks cool rather than sticking with Kate Beckinsale, and, you know, the fact that she knows exactly what she's doing and how to make the audience feel the action and enjoy it. We get our main bad guy and one of our heroes literally screaming at each other face to face. It is their main showdown, and they're not. I just don't. No. That's their interaction. I don't even think they threw a punch at each other, to be perfectly honest with you. Wasn't good. So in the end, though this movie really shouldn't require a lot of reviews, and critics have just destroyed it, it's actually a lot of fun. There are some things that really, really work, and it's got a bigger scope than anything since Underworld Evolution. We definitely went to more places, we got some more backstory, which was really, really neat. There was one specific thing I will talk about more in the spoilers that was one of those things they threw against the wall that initially for me I really didn't think was going to work, and it ended up being really good because Theo James is pretty good in this role. He's definitely better in this than he is in many other movies he's done and many other series, mainly the Divergent series. And I think that if they're going to have difficulty getting Scott Speedman back as Michael, that having another male protagonist in there, that Theo James did a really good job. So, if you are fans of the series, you are going to enjoy this movie. If you are not fans of the series, I'm not sure, unless you're a horror hound or you're an action fiend, that you'll really get a lot of enjoyment, because there is some really bad CGI, there is some political infighting that's not really going to attract your attention unless you are familiar and kept up with the series. So in the end, if I was going to score this movie, I would say I would probably give it a 6 out of 10. And that is with me being a fan of the series. So I enjoyed it probably more than the average moviegoer would. 6 out of 10. Definitely go see it if you're a fan of the series. If not, might be worth waiting until it gets to Redbox or online rental or something like that. Now, real quick, I will get into some spoilers. If you're still here, definitely go make sure that you have watched the movie before you see this, because I am going to spoil a couple of things, and these are the reasons, probably even more so than the things that I mentioned earlier, because I can get over the CGI, I can get over the political infighting. Here's a couple of things that are huge plot points, not only to this movie, but to the entire series. So if you have not seen the movie, go back and watch it, and then come back and visit with me, and definitely want to discuss this with you guys, because I want your reaction to see if it bothered you as much as it bothered me. This is basically almost what tanked it for me. And it didn't happen until late, the very big spoiler I'm going to let go. There's another one a little bit earlier on in the movie that, man, it was a stretch, but I think it worked. It was a stretch, but I think it worked. Right up until the middle of the movie, it's kind of just standard move the plot along kind of fare. And then we start getting double turn after turn after double turn. And there's so many turns from good guy to bad guy, from bad guy to good guy, that I thought I was watching a WWE wrestling match. And it definitely distracted me a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, a lot of it made sense, but some of it I'm just kind of like, what? No, I don't understand. At least with the one character, Varga, it made sense. He swore to protect the house, the leader of that coven. So his turns and Double Turn, it made sense. The rest of it, though, I mean, as far as Marius goes, Tobias Menzies, man, I don't know if it was his look, the constant screaming, the bad CGI, he didn't work. He just didn't work. The better villain was Laura Pulver, who played Samira. She was awesome, actually. She was able to pull off her devious role after kind of getting you to buy in that she was wanting Celine, even though she had no love lost for her because she was Victor's right hand until Celine came along, that she really was what's going to perpetuate their survival against these Lycans. Nope. That was a double turn. That one worked. However, there was a vampire who was in love with Marius, and that one just fell flat. It fell flat. Now, it did allow them to have a plot point to get to Kate Beckinsale when they traveled far north, where we learned the second big spoiler, which is that David, whose father was Thomas, played by the awesome Charles Dance. And it's sad that he didn't have a bigger role in this movie because he definitely classes up to screen when he's on it. Really enjoyed him while he was on screen. But we find out that the former elder, Amelia, and Thomas actually had a child, and that child was David. So that was kind of a big bomb to drop on us right in the middle of the movie, and it seemed that while initially it was really far-fetched and just kind of brought out there to make his character seem more important, it actually kind of worked. The way that they explained it, the blood memories, and his reaction to it was really good job. It was really real. I appreciated what they tried to do with it. Now, all of a sudden, it did seem like his fighting skills really enhanced somehow once he found out, oh god, I'm a vampire elder, I'm the heir to the Eastern Coven, oh, I can fight now. Nobody can beat me. No. But that right there, it did seem a little far-fetched. But the whole plot point definitely worked out. And it was cool because if you remember in the last movie, Underworld Awakening, Celine healed him and brought him back to life with her blood, which then made him immune to sunlight. So maybe there is something to it as far as that goes. Kate Beckinsale has a fight with Marius on this snowbound, ice-bound setting, and it's a really epic fight other than the bad CGI that is involved with Marius. But it was a really cool fight. I really enjoyed it. And essentially, Celine kind of dies, and we've got these vampires while they're there that are able to teleport. So now we've got teleporting vampires. So now we're just adding to the lore. And I'm okay with that. The effects on it were really cool, and I'm okay. The way that they explained it was that once you die and cross over and come back, you have a better understanding of your vampire powers than you ever could. And that's what, in turn, happens to Celine. And it leads to our final showdown, which this is where I have a big grievance. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not good. I don't like it. I really wish they had done something different. And that is where we find out, after all this time, what happened to Michael. And apparently, the most powerful being in the world, the hybrid that is half Lycan, half vampire, after he's thawed out at the end of the movie, last movie, Underworld Awakening, Marius happened to be there, captured him, killed him, and drained him of his blood. It really, really bothered me, and in a big way, tainted the end of the movie. Because up until that point, I've forgiven everything that had happened before, the weird screaming, the bad CGI, the political infighting, and just enjoyed the ride, because it was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, up until that point I was really enjoying myself, and it dragged the movie down from a guilty pleasure 7 to me down to the 6 and 5 range, and I only kept it as a 6 because I really did enjoy the ride. But as a take on the overall series, is definitely a blow, and I understand if you can't get Scott Speedman back, and that killing him off seems to be the way to go. And I don't understand. They're getting great actors. They always have. Charles Dance, Bill Nighy, Derek Jacobi. I mean, you know, Tony Curran. All these people that they've had in the series. Michael Sheen, for God's sake. Rana Mitra. All these people that they have gotten to be involved in the series, and Scott Speedman seems to be too good for it. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what's going on there, but what they chose to do with it and how they chose to do it doesn't make any sense in the story. And that's my big problem. Yeah, am I being a bit nitpicky because it's Underworld, it's friggin' Underworld? Yes, I'm afraid I probably am. But as a fan of the series, it's not the way I would have chosen to go. Now, I know that this has been touted as Kate Beckinsale's last run as Selene. They left it definitely open at the end for another one. And I believe that might be the last chapter. And we finally get to see Eve, Selene's daughter, whom was absent for the entire movie right at the very end. So hopefully we'll at least get her back and we can, move on from that. Selene dispatched Marius once she figured out once that happened with a really cool scene. Pulling his spine out Predator style. Pretty awesome. Not gonna lie. Really enjoyed that. Made up a little bit for what we had just seen with Michael being killed. But overall, I did enjoy myself for the most part. Had a few really big problems with it, but I enjoyed myself. So definitely tell me what you thought of those big things that I just discussed in the spoiler portion. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. I would love to interact with you about it. Did it bother you as much as it bothered me? Or did it make sense to you with how they're telling the story? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please drop us a like. It really helps us out. And if you want to see more videos just like this in the future, then definitely hit that subscribe button because we'll be bringing tons of them to you. Since it is January and it's an entirely new year, not only do I want you to have a super week, but I hope you guys have a super year. This has been Mike from the Super Wheeler Bros. Have a super week, everybody.